Ooh, doggy, man, it is a hot one out here. Hi, welcome back to another Glendemonium podcast. I'm your host, Glenn, and today's subject is college. Do you need it or not need it? I actually had a very interesting conversation with a few people that I associate with. I'm not going to divulge their names, due to safety and whatnot. I mean, it's nothing too controversial, but you know how people are. Anyway, we're talking about college this day and age isn't the golden ticket to a great paying job anymore. Because there are a lot of people there are a lot of people who were told, go to college. If you don't go to a 4-year degree, you're gonna waste your life. You're never gonna have a good paying job, and people are gonna look at you funny. And in my case, no woman is ever gonna marry a man without a college degree. He's gotta make 6 figures by the time he's in his 30s. And well, here's the thing. It might have been feasible maybe in the 80s and the 90s, but somewhere after the turn of the century, like the quality of the college degree has declined dramatically. Now, look, I'm not saying it's 100% useless, but because unfortunately it's a good way to get past the linebackers at HR who basically say you ain't getting this position without a piece of paper embroidered by an accredited university or institution. That's the unfortunate side, like especially in medical and business and finance and all that stuff. But what about jobs like programming? Programming is kind of a hot topic lately. We see a lot of boot camps cropping up. Actually, I think a majority of information tech kind of gravitated away from computer science and focused more on certification. A lot of the trade jobs actually require certification because when you think about it, when you try to learn technology at a 4-year college, everything you learn is either outdated or replaced. And I know a lot of colleges don't always really tell you that because colleges run like a business. I'm not trying to demoralize anybody from going to college. I'm saying like it's run like any business. The teachers got to get paid, staff's got to get paid, faculty's got to get paid. But does it really justify the cost of the tuition? Because it seems like tuition goes up every single year. You're almost required to take out a loan unless you were born into wealth, or maybe your parents have an inn at the school. Those who were born from well-off families have a lot easier time making it through in life than your average Joe, or somebody who grew poor like I did. Um, so I wonder, like, well, what can you do? Or maybe you're young, you're at a crossroad in life where do you want to go to college, or do you want to make it as something else? Do you want to pursue a passion, maybe open up a business? Because when you open up a business, you can you pretty much work for yourself, or you can have people working under you, but you got to know how to open a business. Now, a lot of people say, well, you need a business degree. No, not really. Yeah, if you have a business for yourself by yourself, you don't need a 4-year degree for that. If you're running another company, yeah, you will need a 4-year degree. Same thing with a lot of doctors, lawyers, accountants, nurses. I mean, you do get that training in school, and it's actually transferable to the job at hand. Um, I feel bad for medical professionals because I mean, look how many years of school you got to put in just to get a residency job, and then you don't get paid much as a residency. Like you still, after all that money thrown at the school, you still have to work your way up. And I know there are some people who pursue it because it's a passion of theirs. Maybe they want to help people, and that's great. Or maybe there's somebody that likes to crunch numbers. I mean, I think college is good if there is a demand for the field. If there is a demand for the field. I wouldn't say college is a good idea if you're pursuing a passion. Um, because it will ruin that passion, especially if you can't find a job. Like, you're going to see a lot of, if you majored in like history or liberal arts, you're going to get a job. Well, there's truth behind that because I don't know how much historians make, but I'm pretty sure there's not a whole lot of need for historians. Um, Unless you want to be a history teacher. I mean, you can still get into teaching with a liberal arts degree because you'll probably be teaching liberal arts. Um, but if you're a mathematician, you could have gone on to be an engineer. But now I go on YouTube saying, well, engineers aren't finding work. Now, there is something that I have realized in my long, arduous job search in the programming field. It may not be the college degree is at fault, not 100% anyway. It really depends on location. Entry level positions, your location can be a very huge detriment on how you find work. And I say this only because, like, okay, let's say if you went to school to become, well, I'll just use my example. I went to school. I got a computer science degree, but I live in Arizona. I started out in Phoenix back in 2003. No, actually, it was before that. Actually, but I was only able to go part time, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. I couldn't get a job to sustain myself in Phoenix, and the school that I went to was one of those for profit. It was like Al Collins, and I don't think they're even there anymore. Um, and their housing is basically you rent an expensive apartment for like three other people, and their job placement was here's a bunch of applications, fill it out and leave me alone. That's basically how for profit schools treat treat their students. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I got a computer science degree, but I'm in Arizona. I'm in upper part of Arizona. Like your Bullhead, Kingman, Flagstaff, that part of Arizona. There is hardly any tech jobs up here. I mean, there are tech jobs here, but you never see them advertised. Most of those companies, like your hospitals, your schools, they hire, and even your government jobs, they hire internally. And that's one thing that they'll never really tell you is that when it comes with the job market now, especially that work experience is very valuable. Networking is the most valuable thing underneath. Uh, okay, now I'm messing this up. Yeah, that's embarrassing, isn't it? Um, Networking is one of the big things. So, like, somebody will say, "Hey, does anybody know an IT guy?" Somebody might say, "Hey, I got a cousin who's going to school. Okay, let's just hire him instead." Because a lot of companies are afraid they don't want to deal with the time and money to go with a stranger because apparently there's some myth that it costs money to put out a job posting, and it's time, money, and all that BS. And it's not really true. It's they just don't want to do it. A lot of companies just don't want to put a posting. They just want to get somebody else in to save them the trouble. But if they can't find anybody, that's usually when you see postings on the company board or on Reddit, or not Reddit, Indeed or LinkedIn, and even then they're very selective on who they pick. And a lot of the times they only want local residents. They if they absolutely have to, they'd hire out of state or even out of city limits or out of state limits. But chances are, if you're a senior level of a specific position, they'll usually pick you over some entry level guy who just got out of school. You might get lucky, you might get a couple interviews lined up, and that's great. But a lot of the times, location is a very big deal. It may not be your college degree. It might be the location. Like if you got a degree in something that doesn't exist in a place that you live, you're not going to find work. Nursing's a little different. You'll probably find more work as a nurse, but I wouldn't recommend going into nursing because of the money, because you're going to do a horrible, horrible job at it. You're going to have a very bad time. You can be passionate for nursing, or you just want to help people. Don't be like those nurses who like go to school and they want to pay their dues so they can have a cushy desk job. Because I see a lot of that going on right now, and I understand you're like, don't tell me how to do my job. But because the thing is, those people who want the cushy desk job are don't do a good job as a regular nurse. They just do it to pay their dues, and then they want to become a director where they tell other nurses what to do, but they sit behind a desk and play on a computer and on a cell phone and drink Starbucks every day. Although that's probably not very healthy to drink Starbucks every day. Yeah, that's that's like sugar and coffee. That's like I won't go into detail. Um, Now, there are jobs out there that do not require a college degree. However, they do still require supplemental training. You probably heard this a lot, and it's trade jobs. trucking jobs. Now, I'm not. Now I know like a lot of people, especially millennials and some of us Gen Xers, we're trained to believe that truckers are these, fat, smelly rednecks who drive truck and eat a lot of fast food. And it's not exactly true. There's different kinds of trucking. You get, there are normal people. There are people that drive trucks, and some jobs pay well. Some jobs do pay well. A lot of small town truck jobs probably suck, but it's probably your stepping stone because you could drive whatever needs hauling. They're just going to need a truck driver. They're trying to automate that stuff, but I don't think that they're ever going to succeed. I know. There's probably some engineers scoffing at this right now, but I don't see that stuff getting automated anytime soon. And usually get paid by the mile. And there are regulations where you're not allowed to work over a certain limit. I know there are some companies who want to break that law because they want to make as much money as possible at the expense of the truck driver. Don't work for those guys. Work for a solid company with good benefits that respect your work-life balance, and that's always important. Trade jobs, besides trucking, welders, plumbers, electricians, heating and air conditioning. I remember back in the day when I was doing maintenance, people used to look down at me because, I was still going to college, mind you, but a lot of these people, they assume, well, this guy's a failure. He's in his 20s. He's not going to college. He's going to be a failure for the rest of his life, blah, 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 blah. And I was talked out of by so many people. Don't go into trades. Don't go into trades. They're low wage, dead end jobs. They're low wage, dead end jobs for blue collar slobs. And these were from people who grew up in, prestigious white collar families who had money to pretty much back them up. So even those people went to school and they got a degree, they get to work for mom and dad or their uncle or their grandparents, or they get to inherit the family business in some way. So yeah, technically they got their degree in use, but it's limited to the scope of their family most of the time. But the trade jobs, they're actually needed. There is training, but the training is usually either a few weeks to maybe a few months. And then, yeah, the pay is usually low when you start out, because you always hear you pay your dues, pay your dues, pay your dues. Um, but if you can get into a trade job with a union, you're usually in good hands. Or a company that actually respects you and treats you well, like HVAC, and yeah, it's hard. It could be hard labor. And there's a higher mortality rate, and that's the thing that kind of gets me upset with trade jobs is there's a somewhat higher mortality rate, especially with electricians. The environments are uncomfortable. You're doing a lot of wear and tear on your body, but they only want to pay you like 40, 50K a year, or maybe less than that. I guess it depends on the location in the city, because I know in Kingman here, a lot of those jobs don't pay very well. Mojave County is a poor county anyway, but in a larger city, you can make more money. It's one of those jobs where it doesn't matter where you go, you'll find work. You just have to get past the stigma of those jobs are for a certain type of people because a bunch of baby boomers told me so. You got to get past that stigma. I wish I didn't believe all the nonsense that people used to spout at me when I was in my 20s. I was afraid of heights, but I would have gave HVAC a chance. I could have gave HVAC a chance, or even electrician. I thought I was too dumb at math to be an electrician. I don't know why. I could have became an electrician, but then of course that also meant with you have to work for the electric company and going on the boom waiters and another thing that kept me away from being an electrician was because we got a lot of rednecks around here. Kind of rednecks who aren't very careful when it comes to tools. I've worked with a few of them. The kind of guys that zap themselves because I don't know, they didn't ground a wire or they left something exposed, but they're tweaking out a little bit. Yeah, that's not very pleasant. And so that kind of scares me. But I actually did a little electrical work in my maintenance job. I changed out some plugs. I've repaired some oxygen concentrators, but some of that was sheer luck. Um, I fixed Balex on light fix, really easy stuff. I've ran a wire before. I thought it was fun. I personally thought it was fun. I mean, it sucked going in an attic in the dead of summer to want to run a wire to run an air conditioner, but I didn't pursue it because I thought it was a dead end blue collar job because all these smart people in suits tell me so. That I was young and I was dumb and impressionable in my 20s, so I wish I didn't listen to that. Um, Trade anyway. I'm going off on a tangent. I apologize, but trade jobs do not require a college degree. Just get your training. Information tech, it's a big deal. It's changed. Now, the only thing with information tech is I think you have to keep that stuff up to date because it used to be like A plus net certification were all the rage, but then you go on Reddit and they're saying, well, now it's like high school diploma stuff, and now you need this and this and this, and Microsoft certified is not as valuable. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what? It's like which is it? And there's so many branches, and I think it's a little more expensive than taking a trade. It is like then there's this whole like debacle about the H-1B visas, and a lot of people aren't finding work in information tech, and that's unfortunate. But if you get your foot in the door, you can actually make your way up to six figures, if possible. It's possible. But of course, I hate to be the guy doing help desk dealing with computer. I can't stand computer illiterate people. Like I understand some people have a hard time. I struggled with it first, but there are those who just cannot wrap their heads around email or even operating Windows, and it's the most frustrating thing I've ever seen. I I salute you guys. All right. Well, I got actually more to talk about with college, but I want to try to keep these videos as short as possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop here. I guess I'll call this one like college. Do you need it or not? Part one or something. I'll upload on YouTube, and then maybe this weekend I'll keep going with part two. If you like what you see or you disagree, leave a comment. Maybe we can get a discussion going. Like, fave, subscribe, and all that jazz on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. And I will see you guys soon. Take care.